this parent.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed with doing a web call and presentations is I should have a helper. I saw the chat. So yeah. Yeah,
I'll be better at that, Simon. I'll be your helper for today.
that's all right. It's okay. So yeah, I think yeah, so if you send messages direct to Andy, if there's something you want to ask, he can stop me, okay? How about that? So yeah, we haven't really started yet anyway. I'm still going through some of the first things. But yeah, if you rock their world, and I'd like to think that over the last couple of years, whether it's an age thing or a skills thing, but I've started to get to the point where people quite a lot now send me things saying that was a great presentation. So you know, clearly I'm helping people to change and get better, which is a nice feeling to have, and I think it's really important. I'll show you this one because this comes back to that guess, whoever made the guess about the percentage. Let's watch it. I'm going to share the sound, sorry.
Speaking in front of a crowd.
I'm going to go back and I'll do it again. Right, here we go.
I saw a thing, actually, a study that said speaking in front of a crowd is considered the #1 fear of the average person. I found that amazing. Number 2 was death. Death is number 2? This means to the average person, if you have to be at a funeral, you would rather be in the casket than doing the eulogy.
So absolutely sure, speaking in public is about getting out of your comfort zone, right? I can see some of you nodding. I can't see everybody because of the Zoom. I can only see the first 5%. I need to change that around a bit. But you know, some people in my family, my wife's not that comfortable. She will avoid speaking in public if she possibly can. I'm an attention-seeking thrill seeker. I like to keep testing myself and do things. I don't mind, but I do get nervous. You know, and I always get nervous to do a presentation and my heart starts going. So, you know, it's not something that ever gets easier. I like to think it helps me perform, but for sure, it's something where a lot of people absolutely hate this. If there's anyone on the call, I'm sure you don't want to raise your hand, but I have had people when I've done these presentations at SolidWorks World and 3D Experience World, they say, I will not stand up and do a presentation in front of everybody else. And it's all I can say to you is, just do it, try it, make yourself get out of your comfort zone, because that's where the magic happens, like it says on the slide here, right? That's when you'll get amazing payback if you have a go. And I think as I said up front, I've been lucky that with my job around various enablement marketing jobs around SolidWorks and 3D Experience and Dassault System, I've been able to present all over the place and do different types of things. I've been translated in Korea, which is interesting. We've done panels where, you know, that's a different kind of skill where you're trying to host a panel session, lots and lots of presentations and in different formats. So I think I've had a bit of experience of different things. And I know from your feedback that some of you are doing different kinds of presentations, and there's probably some technical folks on the call as well doing training. That is a form of presentation too, slightly different. But training is there. Right, okay. So thank you very much for the comments. I'm going to leave the chats open so I can see them. Now that would be a good idea, wouldn't it? Yeah, someone said as an introvert, you know, presenting is a learned skill and it does come with practice. I've got a section on practice. Thank you for that prompt, because actually I'm going to talk about my agenda shortly. So yeah, this is me. My name's Simon Booker. And I'm now involved with 2D, bizarrely, after years and years in 3D and with SolidWorks and Dassault System. But across all these different roles that I've had, I have bumped into an awful lot of presentations, an awful lot of good ones, and probably a heck of a lot more very bad ones. And that's why it drives me to get better myself. Sorry about that. Get better myself, but also to help other people improve their ability to present. So what am I going to cover today? Start off with some of your needs. I've got, I think we said we'd do about an hour and a quarter to an hour and a half. So we'll see how we get on. And yeah, so let's get started. I'm going to talk a bit about speaking in public, the mechanics, I'll talk a bit about impromptu speaking. That's really important because the ability to just talk, whether it's in a restaurant, whether it's in a bar, or whether it's in front of a kickoff, or you've been asked a question in a training session, that's a presentation. So I personally think impromptu is huge when you haven't got any PowerPoint and you're just talking and someone says, get up and speak. That's really important, especially to sales folks. Well, for anyone, but especially sales folks too. We'll talk a little about storytelling, and I'll cover visual aids to a degree. And I will spend a bit of time on web presentations. I don't know whether anyone was in Dallas, but I actually did a presentation on Zoom and how to manage this thing. And I'll share a little bit of that with you, and then I'll talk a bit about how to get better in practice. So first up, the Cadimensions self-assessment. So, you know, I think it's good that no one said they were at level 0, which is nice to hear. And no one was I don't know what the word would be, cocky enough or arrogant enough to say they were at 5 with nothing to learn. I would never say I'm 5 really, because everyone can learn, but a lot of you are feeling that you're competent, which is also good to know and good to hear. And hopefully I can help everyone a little bit through the next 90 minutes. Okay. This one shook me a bit, not because, I mean, I do lots of presentations like this now, unfortunately, without being live in person. But I must admit, I didn't think it would have, we'd be about, you know, half and half. That's quite a shock to me as to how many people are presenting online all the time. So that's why I put in the bit about online presenting, because, you know, if you're not actually sat there in the room, there's a lot of things that are very important. This is different. I noticed Andy did it when he and I were chatting, so kudos to Andy, but I'm trying really hard to look at you through the webcam, right? Don't know whether you've heard that tip, but if I'm constantly looking at me, because we're all vain, so I want to look at my own image to check that I'm looking good or how my backdrop is. But don't look at the camera, because now I've got eye contact with you. It's a weird sensation, but that's how it kind of is in this medium. So yeah, online, very, very important. Different types of presentations. Again, this was just to kind of get an idea. I assumed I'd get a kind of a heavy mix. You know, so people doing one-to-one. Impromptu, again, I was pleased to see the 52%, because if you just have to get up and say something, you know, that is a skill. It's a big skill. That was the one that used to scare me. I was a shy kid, and actually took me a long time to let go of the PowerPoint crutch. And many of you, I'm sure, will know what I mean by that, that it's easier to have a set of slides to talk to than it is to just stand up and talk to nothing. But there's good rules that I'll cover, which are in there. And then these were some of the general notes. I haven't embarrassed anybody, but I did categorize them. So in terms of what you told me about today, lots of it was about just raw, how do I get comfortable? How do I speak? How do I address a room? How do I get the better of nerves and all those kind of things? A little bit on presentation building, which I'll cover. It's a huge topic, but I'll do my best to give you an insight within the time that we've got. And then obviously a little bit on storytelling, which I'll also dip into as part of this presentation. Okay, so far, everyone? Yep. I know I'm doing a lot of talking. I do normally do a very interactive version of this class, with hauling people out and having them present as well, which maybe we'll do that as another time if this goes okay. But today I'm sort of probably, I guess, just trying to give you some insights into what we're doing. Now, I know one of you said that you'd done Toastmasters, but this is something that I did. That helped me a lot. I know Toastmasters is pretty big in the US, and you can just go turn up to one of these groups and they will help you with their speaking, especially impromptu, which is where I've got some of these concepts from. Okay. They are a very good, they're an international organization, but you turn up, they have meetings in the evening, and everyone has a role. So if you're not presenting, you're counting how many ums and ers people say. Oh, I just did one on. Yeah, right. You mustn't do an and you can eliminate that from your vocabulary. And the picture I put here is one of the ones that they did. They did an outward bound class one weekend, and they said soapbox, which in the UK you stand on a crate and you pitch to people in the street. That did scare me quite a bit. It's one thing talking to a bunch of salespeople or some customers, but to just stand in the street and talk about nothing to strangers, and you've got young kids, grandparents, and everyone else in between. Teenagers are the worst because they go, "What are you doing?" and that kind of thing. Brilliant idea. The confidence it gave me to do that for a day was huge. And it also helps you engage people because to stop people walking by. So I don't know whether anyone's done that or they do that at weekends, but it's a really good thing to do. What I thought I'd do, because I like to test myself, and also just to give you an idea that, you know, the qualification to speak, this impromptu process that Toastmasters do is they give you 2 minutes. And the idea is that someone gives you a random topic, completely random. It could be hot air ballooning or it could be anything. And your idea is that you speak for 1 to 2 minutes, not longer than 2. So it teaches you about time management. And basically the idea is you watch and see if people dry up. So what I thought I'd do is, I'm not going to do this with you today. That's what the other class would be. I'd actually try, and it's difficult on Zoom. Might have to do it when I'm in America sometime. But I thought I'd do one for you. So someone come up with a topic, anything you like. Doesn't need to be work, can be anything. Could be love thy neighbor.
Scrapbooking.
Sorry?
Scrapbooking?
Scrapbooking. Okay, all right. So here we go. So the other day, I was thinking about all the pictures that I've got stored around. And actually, I went into my garage and I found a box with a whole bunch of pictures in. And I found a scrapbook from when I was a teenager. And it got me thinking how, with the digital world we live in now, this concept of actually taking a physical item, printing it or cutting it out and putting it in a book to save the memory, people just don't do that now. I'm sure a teenager would just look at you like you got two heads if you suggested making a scrapbook. But it's such a nice way to collect memories, is to actually put something physical on paper that you can touch, you can feel, you can smell, but also it captures the memories or the achievement. Maybe it was a swimming medal or something. In fact, now I've got a big dose of wildlife photography. I love it. And one of the things that's interesting is digital photography. You can take 2,000 pictures in 20 minutes. But one of the things I do like to do is I like to print the picture out and put it on my wall behind me. So when I turn off this background, you can see some of the pictures on my wall. I'll do that in a minute. But it makes you think about the way technology has changed the way we work, changed the way we think, and changed the way we behave, to the point where we've almost sometimes stopped thinking about things like scrapbooking. I'm going to go and do one. Thank you. So that's just an example that you get better at that by practicing it. I'm the world's worst dad because all my kids, they're 24, 22, 20, 21 now. But I've always just gone out for a dog walk with them. I said, right, sell me the pen, the classic thing, or sell me that pair of boots, or do me a pitch, like that, and keep going. Don't use and ers. Try to keep going. And if I got one of you now who doesn't like speaking, you know, people get through this wall after about 35 seconds, or the story gets jumbled. So what I'm going to do over the next few minutes is go through a few of the mechanics that can help you do a little impromptu speech like that, because all I really did then was I went through some basic rules and some structures to help me cover myself in that minute and a half approximately. But it's a great skill to have. and it's something you can all get good at just by practicing. Okay, makes some sense. What did you think? Yeah, there are some basic rules. Like I had a start and I had an end, and I had a bit in the middle. I tried to go as slow as I can, which is never easy for me. I like to speed talk, but yeah, there's a few things. So the first one to think about is, you know, get out of your own way. I think this guy, I've got the link in here, called Matt Abrahams, and he's on YouTube. There's some wonderful stuff you can watch, and he's all about the psychology of what makes you nervous and how you can get round that to do presentations. And the fact is, another percentage for you, 85% of people do get nervous. And I've always loved this quote, you know, that your brain starts to function the moment you're born, and it doesn't stop until you get up to speak in public. So it's really, really, don't think you're unique. Everybody gets nervous. I'm sure Gianpaolo Bassi, before he strides onto stage at 3D Experience World, gets really nervous, sweaty palms. So you're not unique, and everybody has that. And in fact, I think it's a good thing. But it can also be something you need to take control of. So I always do a few breathing exercises. If it's a really big presentation, I'll just try to make sure I chill out and calm down, because you just have to try and do that. I've got an example also, which I'll show you now, of how not to do it. I think this video jumps a bit in PowerPoint. I'd need a technical person to tell me why some videos jump and some don't, but you'll get the general idea. But have a listen to this guy. Some of you may know him. Some of you may not, but it's a great example of what not to do.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Starr County Republican Party Executive Committee, good evening. My name is Phil Davison, and I am seeking our party's nomination for the position of Starr County Treasurer on November 10th. I have a bachelor's degree in sociology, a bachelor's degree in history, a master's degree in public administration, and a master's degree in communication. I have represented our party twice on the county ballot. I have been a Republican in times good, and I have been a Republican in times bad. Albert Einstein issued one of my most favorite quotes in the history of the spoken word, and it is as follows: in the middle of opportunity, excuse me, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. I'm going to repeat that so I have clarity tonight. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. This is the opportunity we've been waiting for. If nominated tonight, I promise each and every person in this room, I will hit the ground running, come out swinging, and end up winning.
Do you think he moved his audience?
Probably
It's-
sick of running.
Maybe out of the room.
Yeah. The funny
In
thing
terror.
is,
It was
yeah,
the Republican Party, so he probably won.
well, the thing is, nowadays we live in a world plagued by fake, and it's going to get worse with AI, right? But that was real, because apparently he was on TV the next day. It was totally real. But what do you think happened? Anyone got any thoughts? What do you think was happening there?
Adrenaline.
You tried to
Yeah.
pull a Chris Farley.
Well, actually, he was actually really angry, because apparently some of the guys in the room said they'd vote for him and then they didn't. So a lot of that stuff was sheer anger, and he was annoyed. And yeah, he did lose it, and he paced and he did all those things wrong. He lost all of his voice control. But it just shows you how much emotion can wreck you as well. So you have to try and stay balanced. If anyone's done a eulogy, you'll know what I mean. That's the worst one, because your emotions are raging and you have to try and keep calm. But the same thing if you're angry or upset with somebody and then you get on stage to present, or you want to present well, try to stay calm, because you have to be able to think in the moment, and he couldn't. And one of the ways that you can think in the moment is this little thing. It's called a pause. And people are always amazed that you can use it. I'll actually click them in. Let's just go all the way. They are so useful. And I'm someone that I guess in my natural life, I tend to like to fill in the gaps, but you don't need to. You don't need to say something all the time. I just pause then for probably 2, 3 seconds. But what's happening? Does it mean you can't understand me? Nope. It actually gives me more gravitas. And my brain's an amazing thing, like yours. I can think about all the stuff I want to talk about in those 2 seconds. So did you notice at the start of the impromptu speaking, I gave everybody 10 seconds to think about it. So when you were waiting that 10 seconds, I had the thing about the garage and finding the pictures and linking it to my photography. I did all that in that 10 seconds. So I had a structure. I knew I was going to execute that story because of a pause. And you can do exactly the same thing. So when you get up and you're going to, or maybe it's the killer question at a seminar. Oh, but I heard someone left Cadimensions because they're not a great company. You know, I'd like to address that thought. And you're just in those few seconds, you've got everything you need to be able to start planning a story and getting ready. So for those of you that want to get better at speaking to a large audience, or you want to have more gravitas, or you just be made a VP and you think, I want to make sure I can sound like a VP, slow down, pause more, and be deliberate. And that's a really great start, just from that little thing called a pause. Okay. One other thing that I haven't read the slide, shame on me. The other one that people do a lot is they ask a question and they don't really wait for the answer. I think I probably did that a bit earlier on. I asked one question, got one answer, and then moved on. If you're going to ask the audience a question, wait for some answers. Otherwise, it's disrespectful. And a pause can also be a way to change. So now I'm going to move into the next step, which is the rest of your body. So let's talk a bit about your body and your voice and your eyes, because they're very important. I found this one. You'll hear a thread from what I was just talking about, actually, about how can you have more executive presence. And I was sort of checking on sincerity, and I found this one of these TED Talks. Again, there's so much great stuff out there in YouTube land and online. So this lady, Laura Sicola, and this one kind of shook me a little bit, that, you know, 38% of your sincerity judgment is by your vocal tonality, and only 7 from what you say. It's crazy. So when you're up there and you're thinking, I need to make sure I'm listened to and engaged, remember, they're soaking up what your body does, and they're listening to your voice, and they probably aren't even listening to what you're saying. They're just soaking up your persona. So if you get the persona bits right and you use your body in the right way, you can immediately get several steps ahead of someone else that talking too high or talking monotone, those kind of things, or using their body badly. Which brings me to the next point, one of the biggest watched videos on TED Talks, I'm sure many of you know it, is this one by Amy Cuddy, sorry, on body posture. And she talks about, again, she's a kind of a psychologist, analytics. She took a load of students, and made them have high and low power poses. And then they interviewed them. And it was really interesting that all the people who'd been sitting with high power poses were more likely to be hired by their test hiring committee than the ones in low poses. So that's exactly what I did here. I got myself, when I'm talking to you, I got ready, and I start shaping myself up here and thinking, right, okay, I've got Cadimensions. A lot of people are going to judge me here today. So I start shaping up and getting ready for a higher power pose. Now, the classic one she mentioned, she called it the Wonder Woman, which is a throwback to the 19, I guess, 70s, right? For anyone that's as old as me. And And yeah, we all know that pose. I can't really do it here in the office, but you know, I've never stood on stage and given a presentation in the Wonder Woman position, but you know, it does make you feel quite strong and more confident. And that is the basic message she has, which is that your body, in a weird kind of way, actually changes your own mind. So you can get a positive attitude by having a positive body. So again, if you're one of those people that stands on stage and you crouch over and you hunch and you look at the sky for divine inspiration to help you get through the next 20 minutes, you're not exhibiting, you know, good body posture, and it's going to reflect in how you perform. And basically, if you're going to do something on stage or with a big audience, get up there, stand tall, breathe, give your echo chambers the best chance to perform, and you will. There are other things that we know about. If we had, you know, if we had an Italian on the call, I'm sure you'd see lots of this, you know, that stuff going on. There are, I think I've got a couple of famous politicians here doing the fig leaf, you know, which is the kind of protective position. So again, one of the nice tips I had from I haven't had much true speaker training, but I did get some before a SolidWorks World a few years ago. And the guy was very interesting. He said to me, he said, keep your hands in the screen. So his point was, when people are watching you, it's a forced situation with Zoom, but when people are watching you, even on stage, they tend to be zooming in on your face. And so keep your hands close to your face. If you're doing stuff down here, they don't see it, same as you don't see it now. But if you're making a point and you're doing this or doing that close to your head, it has more impact. So those kind of body language things are really important. Personally, my view is that this one is way more important than all of them. Eyes, which is why I liked that Andy was looking at the webcam, because eyes have, not only do you look for eye engagement when you're doing a presentation, and depending on the size, you know, that can have a number of different forms, but for this reason, and that is that it gives you, it shows your audience. And I think in the survey I put out, one of you said, what about standing in front of senior audiences, and how do I get engagement? And the answer is, look at them and show them that you're prepared to be on stage. It's weird with Zoom, because if I'm looking at the webcam now, I'm probably looking at all of you, but when you're on stage, it is quite different. And I remember the first time I stood up at SolidWorks with, you know, John Hirschtick, John McElhaney, and all those founders in the front row. And you just got to go and look at them. And I've done it with Bernard Charles and all the Dassault people, in the sense that, okay, I'm here, I'm on stage. I'm not frightened to be here, and I'm going to look at you in the eye, and I'll look you in the eye and show you I'm not frightened of being here, because I have a right to be here and I'm presenting today. And just doing some of those things will help you a lot. Okay, so that's a really important thing. I think the eyes are very important. Anyone want to make a comment? I know I'm talking a lot here. Maybe I should solicit some more feedback.
Hey, Simon, a question for you. As an audience member in the group, I guess any tips and tricks for making eye contact back, or trying not to get distracted by other screens and emails and everything else that might be popping up during the presentation?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, I think several people made the point, how can you actually, you know, hold the audience? I tend to I like a bit of content, because, I mean, you know, I've got young kids now, and there's probably some young people on the call here. If I could see everyone's faces, you've got to be careful. There are so many distractions now. It's not just email in your pocket anymore. It's a million different things. But yes, I got a smartphone sat here. There's a dog in the other room that I really don't want to bark. So, you know, things like that. I mean, I think it's up to the speaker. I don't think the audience has any particular role. I wouldn't be disrespectful. And if someone looks at you, I tend to look back at them, because I think it's good for the speaker. But I'm a very supportive audience member, that I like to support the speaker. And if you're in, you're in. So I like to be here and try and help them. If you're the speaker, yeah, it's your job to try and engage and keep people listening and looking. And I think you can't, if you talk for 18 minutes on one slide, unless you're very, very good or it's an extremely compelling story, you know, that's a tough gig, you know. So I like to keep some interesting things on screen, use pictures to keep people's attention. Okay. Vocal variety is another one. Maybe I won't go through this, but one of the things I tend to do in the sort of live session is there are some things you can do to actually get ready, to make your voice get ready. Always have a glass of water ready just in case something happens on croaking or whatever. But yeah, you know, if you stand with your shoulders back, you're going to get better. And then what speakers often do, I've never caught one when we've had guest speakers at 3D Experience World or SolidWorks World. I've never managed to find somebody doing this, but apparently, you know, they will do sort of, you know, they'll do tests to get their vocal cords going and their lips moving to make sure their diction is going to be good and they're rolling their R's and things like that, or going, that's the siren thing. All of that is about, you know, this is a tool. Your voice is a tool, and getting it warmed up and ready for the challenge ahead, which is the presentation. Okay, so that's a few of the, you know, mechanical things that you can get control of. So I hope that gives you, for those of you that were saying, how can I just stand up in front of an audience? I'd like to think that's some of your agenda there. So think about your body, think about your eyes particularly. Make sure you use pauses, don't rush, take your time, and get your body language to support you in that environment. Okay, make some sense so far? Good.
That's it.
Okay. I can't see all of you, but I'm gonna, should I do that? Everyone, can I do that? No, I can't do it. I'm gonna change it. Just wanted to see more faces. There we are. I can see more of you now. Right. Well, no one's sleeping visibly, so we're doing all right. Okay, so let's move on to storytelling. Now, storytelling is a bit of an in vogue thing right now. You know, I think there's lots of stuff going on inside Das System on storytelling. So I've got a little mashup here of some things that I normally would say in my little impromptu speaking and talking presentation, together with some of the other things that we have available for you. Now, the first one, I found this blog a little while ago, and this is great. I used to do a thing with my kids when I had young kids. There was a program in the UK used called What's My Line, where people used to do impromptu speaking. And I kind of did it with my kids. I used to say to my daughter, okay, give me a character. And she'd say, you know, a pixie. And you go, great. What else? And she'd say, a donkey. And you go, great. Anything else? An eagle. And you go, right. Give me a minute. Okay. And then you'd start the story. But one of the things that I learned is we tend to talk about things in a kind of a neutral factoid kind of way. So if I gave an example for, you know, SolidWorks 2024, it's a really good release. It's got lots of great new functionality. We've listened to people's requests on what they wanted to have in the user interface. We've improved our integration with 3D Experience platform. That's all quite dull. What happens if you add some characters and you put in some curiosity? So let me give an example. You stand there and go, want to tell you a bit about SolidWorks 2024. And do you know, I said to a customer the other day, do you know what's in 2024? And they said, no, I don't. And I said to them, we've had more positive feedback about how we've done great work to enhance draft site integration than anything. And they said, really? And I said, yeah, let me explain. Suddenly it's right back to that kids thing of storytelling. We were all kids once, and we look, some of us grow up, some of us don't. And actually, you'd be amazed when you do a pitch and you start using he said, she said, I'll tell you a story, and have a little bit of conflict in there as well is a great thing. Like, but they said, oh, that's rubbish, Simon. I don't agree with that. It's amazing how it brings the story to life. Okay. So from a storytelling point of view, if you're going to just relate something that happened, put narrative in, have some dialogue, have some characters, describe who the characters were. And that will improve your storytelling. You can try it over dinner tonight when you get home. Just tell a story about, oh, I had this guy called Booker. Do you know he was bald? He was 60, but he said some interesting things. And you can do all that stuff and it will make your story come to life. Okay, rather than just giving people the facts. And another case I heard, I went to one of these Toastmaster things and someone did a presentation for 20 minutes on barbecues. And they spent a lot of time saying the smell of sizzling bacon. And I could smell where I'd been cutting the grass and the aromas of cut grass flying around still in the air. And it was like, there was all this discussion just about the smells before she even started talking about barbecues. But it was really good. And I've never forgotten that. So make your stories rich. Don't just keep skating across the surface with facts. Go down deep. Describe what you are thinking. Describe what you are feeling. Describe the smells. Describe the sweaty palms. Tell people everything to do with that story, because that's what storytellers do. And that's a great way to get started. Okay? There is some science to back it up that, again, I found this blog and said that if you have a structure to your presentation, or to your story, it can increase retention by 40%. So I'm up for that. You know, if that means that a boardroom are going to understand your proposal for SolidWorks 40% better, then tell them some stories and have some structure about it. There are loads of different structures. You could Google some of these, but there's a couple that come to mind. This was one that I quite like because it's, you know, you've got the classic, you know, problem identification solution, but this one was quite interesting. Someone told me about, and it's what, so what next? So again, if you applied it to a kind of a customer scenario, you could say, look, I know you guys have had 13 crit bugs in the last 3 months and you're not happy. And that's probably, you know, hurting your productivity with us, and it's not giving you great confidence. But what that means to us is that we really need to get you sorted out. We're going to get someone to come in here, find out exactly what kind of problems you've been having, track whether it's a machine problem, a software problem, or a usability problem. And then in 3 weeks' time, we're going to have a meeting to review where we've got to, see how many crits we've managed to get rid of, how much we've been able to improve your productivity, and then we'll get on. So again, just what, so what next? And you can actually apply it. Andy, you could have done that for introducing me, right? I think you probably did actually. You can say, you know, we were talking about presentations, and I happened to see something about Simon Booker. So I decided to get him to come out here and give us a presentation. He's going to talk for the next hour and a half. I really hope he'll enjoy it. Off we go. And again, what, so what next? Another one I heard recently, which is probably back to the storytelling thing, is, you know, sorry, to the kids thing, is Once Upon a Time, which is really you set the scene, and then you just have as many and thens as you want, because that's how you discover new things. So you can just hang your storyline onto that framework, and then at the end you go to what was the final, what's the main point of what you learned from all those extra things that came along. So structure is really important. Making it vibrant with different characters and roles is really important. And then there's other things you can do on storytelling. I'm going to just sort of do I think I'm going to do like an advertorial, but I don't know whether you're aware, but there was a presentation at 3D Experience World. Did anyone go to it? Brian O'Keefe and Scott Byrne did a really good presentation, but Brian works for these guys. So he works for Articulus, and they've got a methodology of how you can keep attention and get attention. And I'm not kidding, it works. They've done, I think he said he trained 3,000 people in North America. I don't know. Has he ever done any work for you, Andy?
Not yet. Oddly enough, what a cool segue. Next week, Scott is doing a presentation for the same group.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Scott is a big devotee of what they do. And maybe I shouldn't steal his thunder then. But basically, it's about, you do a frame, which is like a video or something, but it's kind of relevant. So you sort of interrupt people with something interesting and a sort of a parallel that you can talk about, like, you know, photography or some stuff in the garage, and you relate it to the topic you're trying to cover. So, you know, they went through their thing in 3D Experience World, obviously talking about cloud services and relating it to Facebook and a pencil and you know, I can't remember. Oh yeah, jewelry.
Jewelry box, yep.
Yeah, but it's great, and it's online in the partner portal, so you can go and see that. But I won't steal his thunder. But yeah, I mean, it's a
Oh no, did we lose Simon?
it works well. It takes a little customer or a small customer. It's sometimes worth planning the speech, because I think that's really really important. Okay.
You could not ask for a better commercial. So we'll see everybody next week
Yeah.
as well for part 2.
And you know what? We didn't plan that, did we? I didn't.
No, we
Swear to
did
God.
not.
Swear to God, I didn't plan that. But they, you know, those guys. There's lots of people inside Dasa System who are good at presenting, and you know, I've got no particular caveat on doing anything better. And Scott is very innovative. He's always been a good presenter. I like the way he talks. He's got, you know, got that nice style, and you know, it's a nice thing to do. So he was relating some of the functionality and functions of cloud services to, you know, those kind of issues that you see, and finding a frame or an alternative view to hang the message on, and then you provide the proof points to help people understand, and it kind of works. So it's a storytelling aid. There is another storytelling methodology which is bubbling around in Europe. You probably know a guy called John Kitchenman, who is sort of runs all of the channels at Dassault System, or you may have heard of him. But he's also got a company in the Netherlands who got a sort of a structure. So you plan your talk, you think about the audience. A lot of it is common sense, you know, like I did with you, right? I surveyed you to find out what you want to know about. So hopefully I can make this as relevant as possible. Because if I banged on about something that's not relevant, you're not going to enjoy this. So my goal is to be relevant and bring you value in the presentation. And that's something. So there's a lot of these storytelling methodologies. The other stuff I talked about are just general tips on how to articulate a story. But you can spend a whole day or a week doing storytelling. And I think Andy and I were talking about this presentation a little while back when he came to me and said, would you do something? I think there are a lot of these topics I'm covering today that could be a whole extra session. That's not me trying to sell that I do it. But I think, you know, if you want to deep dive more into storytelling, it's an infinite bucket, as is the next one, which brings me naturally to what visual aids. And, you know, so PowerPoint, oof, what a topic. I mean, I'm 61 nearly, and I've been messing around with PowerPoint since I was at Computer Vision when I graduated from college. And I suppose, when did I really start messing with PowerPoint? I suppose a lot in the kind of 1991 kind of frame. So how many years is that? A lot, 30 years worth. And, you know, in the past, the argument, Computer Vision, when I was there, was the best sales tool we had was PowerPoint, because you didn't want to do too many demos. So you had to get good at doing good presentations. But it's when I also learned that PowerPoint is a visual aid and it can help. But there's a number of good ways you can use it, bad ways you can use it as well. I don't know whether anyone's ever tried this. Anyone ever heard of the Pechakuka presentation method? Anyone done it? I would love to do it. And do you know, I never have. I should have done it with you guys. You take 20 slides, you present them for 20 seconds, and you have to tell a story in the 20 seconds, and it's fixed. So you know your presentation is going to be 6 minutes, 40 seconds. And apparently it's really good, because it makes you learn your story. It obviously makes you use visuals, because you don't want to put a whole load of text on a slide for 20 seconds. It's visuals and pictures. And it makes you stay on time and stay on message. I've never actually done it, but I would love to try. But I haven't heard it mentioned so much recently, but I did hear someone talking about it a couple of years ago, said, You should have a go at this, Simon. It's great fun. And I haven't. Shame on me. I normally try all these things. One that I did try, and have a look at the date on this, 2010. I used to use this a lot. Now, I'll tell you what, I'm going to click here because I think, oh, hold on, let me just get rid of my pointer. I don't know where the window is going to come up. Hold on. Yeah, it's not there. It's here. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. It's loading. Now, this might make you feel sick, but basically, hold on. Oh, it's still loading. I need to go back. It's in the cloud. Yeah, there we are. It's coming in. Now, this is something called Prezi. And and we were talking about it at the start, at the top of the call. Andy was mentioning it because he remembered me doing it. Was it this one, Andy?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, was it? Yeah. And I had a real fad on this. I used to drive Ken Clayton nuts because everyone be doing their presentations with PowerPoint. I went, no, I've got a Prezi, which was an executable. But basically, you kind of fly around a sheet. The videos aren't working, so I apologize. But it can make you feel funny. But look what you're doing. Now, I actually feel like having another go with this now because I would be talking my script and saying, look, today I'm going to cover elevate the sale. We've got a few different things. We're in pre-planning season, and it's just like when you're going to plan to do the Dakar rally. So you need to think about what events, how many cars have you got, and you just carry on like that. And it's quite funky, but it can make you swim a bit when you start zooming around, especially if you go too fast. But it, again, something that probably people would tell you about me is I love to keep finding something new because when people see new things, they wake up and they pay attention, right? Maybe some of you are young enough, you'd never have seen that before. So you'll go and say, I've seen this thing called Prezi, I'm going to have a play with it. And it's still out there. I think Dassault should have bought them because it was quite a funky technology. We could have done some good stuff with 3D. But anyway, it's so there are other tools that you can use to do presentations. That's one of them. And anyone been on a boot camp in the last few months or years? No one's raising their hand. We used to do this in boot camps where you had to actually go and get out a pen, get a flip chart and draw this diagram and whiteboard your discovery as you were with the prospect. Again, it's very powerful. If you can get good at it, it's a really good thing to do. It does actually, bring in a lot of interesting dynamics that you don't need to carry around any slides and you don't need to remember anything. I'll show you one thing which a lot of people don't know about. And anyone know about W on the keyboard? You hit W, it makes PowerPoint go white. And then I do this an awful lot. But if someone said to me, look, we're going to have a big database, and then we're actually going to take all your SolidWorks files, we're going to put them in the database here, we're going to store them in the cloud, right? And this is 3D Experience. And that's going to give you a great way to go and do things for your users. If you can get good at scribbling, now I'm doing this with a mouse, or I'm doing this with a, oh, you can't see me. Yeah, there. I'm doing it with a mouse. Now, I mean, I think it was Brian O'Keefe from Articulus. He actually had a pen. So he started drawing with a pen. And it's a really good thing if you can do this. I also watched a bunch of YouTube videos on cartooning, which was quite interesting. I don't know whether I should do this because I'm probably going to crash and burn. But basically you can let me go back again. Basically, if you get good at cartooning, you can start to do some nice funky pictures for people. And I used to like to do this for my kids, right? So there we are. Nearly. Okay. But if you get good enough at it, it just creates an interesting dynamic. And I scribble all over slides in Zoom. I do it all the time. So I always going back to here and saying, what if we actually took this concept and we actually go and say, let's take the writing skills and we need to apply that in here and make sure that when we do this with our pencil, we're going to do a good job. And if you get good at that, it's just a bit different. And you can explain your PowerPoint slide in Zoom by writing on it, just by pressing W and learning how to use the mouse. Okay, so that's one of my tips for today.
Simon, if you don't mind, I'll add to that. We use Microsoft Teams a lot internally, and
Yeah.
with customer facing, they actually
Yeah.
have a whiteboard feature that actually one of our guys, Kevin Holbrook, just showed it to me recently. So
Yeah.
I think it's a great tool, though, especially on a discovery call. If you
Yeah.
wanted to like map out the customer's process as they're explaining it to you, if you're on a Zoom call, to use that as a visual aid live with them is a very easy tool to use.
Yeah, I mean, I spent 3 years over at 3D Via trying to do retail 3D planning in the cloud. That's when I first disappeared from my weekly news role. And we used to do it a lot. You know, you'd sit there and you'd say, right, okay, I need to do this database, and then you're going to have all your kitchen designs over here, and then you've got to put them in here, and then you can, you know, visualize them in 3D. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I found it invaluable as a technique to bring value add to what you discovery. It's a great kind of tool. Okay, now what else did I do on agenda? Yes. How much time do you think you should spend preparing your slides? Someone answer. What do you think?
The night before.
The night before. Good
Right.
answer. Good answer.
1 hour for every hour you plan to present.
Oh, that's a good answer. I like that.
Or
That's
maybe,
really good.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably I borderline go into the guilty zone of spending, you know, of coming over here and spending too much time on the presentation. The only thing I would say is that if you've got a presentation to 1,000 people, it is worth spending the time. If you've got a killer slide, it's worth presenting the time to build it and build it well, because the visual aid can be good. But people generally get this balance all wrong, that you just need to spend much less time building PowerPoint and fiddling around with juggling your slides as you should spend on thinking, what am I going to say? How am I going to say it? What do the audience want to know? And how do I manage my speaking? So great. I like both of those. Just do something the night before. Don't do too much. Or an hour per hour that you're presenting. That's another good example. So I think there's a law of diminishing returns, and that's why I think it depends. It depends a bit on what you're doing. So if you're doing the presentation for main stage at the Cadimensions launch event, yeah, it's worth spending some time to smash it. If you're just going to see a customer the next day, listen to what they want to say, think about what you're going to control the situation and do that. So, you know, and I think that's probably what this, you know, kind of 50-50 is. If you're going to do an hour's presentation, you know, then spend an hour getting ready for it. I have a particular favorite, and I'm not going to go through it now because I think it's a bigger discussion, and I wanted to cover some of the other things. But I don't know how many of you have seen this. But David Phillips and his presentation on Death by PowerPoint on YouTube. If you haven't watched it, then you absolutely, this is going to be an invaluable, I think it's 20 minutes. It's an invaluable 20 minutes of your life. He talks about a few different things. I have never built PowerPoints the same since I watched that presentation. And I watched it after a lot of research. But he talks about some of the classic things like have one message per slide. So there's one thing you're trying to get across with each slide. Don't ram the slide full of stuff and expect people to work it out. He talks a bit about fonts and colors. I did this at a SolidWorks World years ago where I think I was doing an announcement as an MC, like be at the buses for 6 o'clock. And I had the 6 o'clock in a dirty great font in blue. And someone said, I've never actually known when the buses are leaving until I saw your presentation. And I realized that's you did it with color. And I've done it here. So I do this a lot. If I'm trying to emphasize a bullet point on a presentation, I just make it a different color and maybe change the font. It's huge. And then this one is one of those kind of absolute rock star moments you've got to remember. 6 objects per slide. I mean, if you count this, right, I've got one image, I've got a title, subtitle. Do I count that? Maybe. And then I've got a 4. I've got a little thing with 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 things in here, so that's perhaps a bit too many. I don't know really. And then I've got a 6th one here. And what he says is, you know, 6 or 8 objects per slide. And the really big thing that I took away that he says, it's not the number of slides. You know, I don't know whether you've ever done this, Andy, where you say, come to a presentation and everyone must do 3 slides. So what happens is everybody then rams all of their 15 slides onto 3. Okay. I don't care how many slides people have got. What I care is how much crap they've got on each slide. Right? Because that's what matters. That's what gives you death by PowerPoint. As soon as someone shows you a huge slide with tons and tons of stuff on it, that's when it can get a bit tricky, right? I will show, I've got an example. Where is it? I'm going to show you an example. Yeah, this is, I'm going to go into DraftSight for a minute so you can all have a breather and think about 2D for a second. But this is CRE customers, 15 seats or more. And this slide breaks that rule. But what I do here is I pitch this slide and say, don't read it, guys. This is just a takeaway of 15 plus accounts that have got lots and lots of seats of 2D as well as 3D. And the only messages to back this slide, they're all over the planet. They're in every one of our 13 industries, and they're 15 plus seats of DraftSight in amongst the SolidWorks. And there are a lot of big accounts in there. That's the takeaway. So I don't know, that you could say, yeah, but because you put all those names up there, Simon, I'm going to go and read them and say, what does Subtle Way Electric do? All my audience are distracted because they're now reading all the names. You're probably right. But it sometimes you can do things with a little bit of content on there, and you can make it change. This was one that Tim Haller and I did a presentation on DraftSight at 3D Experience World, and this is where, perhaps just to show you the power of kind of using pictures instead of words, that I happened to we decided to do a presentation on what we call the Trojan horse for DraftSight, which is to get in the door with 2D into an account where you can't get in with 3D. And I watched, we talked about Trojan horse, and I happened to watch the film. So I rewatched Brad Pitt and the Troy movie. And it's totally true. You've got an example here. We've got the best army in the world to go and crash through the front door of that account. But you've got all those AutoCAD users stacked against you. And you've got the empires of PTC and the other 3D players. And it's going to be really hard to get in. So you've got all the 2D bigots who want to keep you out. You've got all of the 3D bigots who are going to try and keep you out. But the one bunch of people that you can talk to, CFO. Why? Because he's got a massive invoice from the Autodesk folks to renew his named users for all those AutoCAD users. And he's absolutely red in the face with annoyance, or she is, that they've got this huge bill from Autodesk. They probably won't change the 3D strategy overnight. So go in and talk to them about DraftSight, because it gives you a really good angle to get in. Why does it give you a good way to get in? Because it's free money. You'll get ignored by the 3D strategists. You can save them 60 to 70% of their budget. Casual users is where you start, because they don't really care. They just want a tool to use. And they'll take you into new departments to sell 3D. And at the end of the day, you can give the customer a gift of his own discount, 60% of his budget. How many seats of SolidWorks could you buy without 60%? So, yeah, I've done a little bit of a DraftSight pitch. Forgive me, I had to, right?
All right, we could use
But
it.
yeah, you can use it. Yeah, you can have them. But this is, again, this is on the partner portal. And it just shows you that sometimes throwing away the corporate template and doing things with a picture can have a lot of impact in telling a story. Is there anyone on the call who's in control of the corporate templates? Usually it's the marketing manager or somebody, right? I don't know whether there's anyone on the call who does that.
Yep, that's me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know you're very proud of the Cadimensions brand positioning, and that's absolutely right. I've had some terrible arguments with the DS folks. I say I will absolutely have all my positioning on the first slide, the last slide, and I'll sprinkle it in as much as I can. But I will sometimes use full screen pictures because that's me storytelling. And that doesn't mean I'm going to have every slide with a Cadimensions logo in the bottom right. And so I'm sure you might give me some arguments to why you should. If you're going to give that PDF to someone, you want to make sure that it's seeded with the Cadimensions logo and things like that. But if it's a presentation where you're trying to get your point across, I'm just encouraging people not to see a straight jacket of your corporate template. Use it because it's probably a nice template and gives you some good characteristics, but don't get constrained by it. Okay. And
I agree. Actually, throughout your entire presentation, I was like, wow, the full scale image without, just the logo all the time looks pretty good. So
yeah. Well, I'm sorry, Ola. I didn't mean to create heat for you, but I actually had, I won't say her name, but somebody, I was doing a presentation to the reseller session at SolidWorks World. So that's what, 1,200 people. And she went in and changed about 10 of my slides overnight and shrunk the images. And I said, please, don't you ever touch my slides without me knowing about it again. I came in the morning and I had to put them back. Because she said, well, they're not brand compliant. I went, I don't care about that. I'm doing knowledge transfer today. I'm not doing brand placement. That's something else. So Ola, don't do that. I've seen people get so saying, you say I can't do a presentation because my CEO has told me I must use the slides in this format. So again, you don't have to do anything like that. Okay. How are we doing on time? I've run out. Right. Okay. Okay, I'm going to keep going. And yeah, I'm going to jump now just to do a little bit on, so where are we on time? Sorry, I never need to check. Right, so we're at 7:15. Right, okay. So I've probably got about another 20 minutes and I do want to stop. I'm going to just show you a couple of these slides because I think this will help you. Did anyone come to my presentation at World? No. Shame on you. How dare you?
Did.
Sorry?
I thought Andrea did.
No, don't worry about it. I don't have an ego about stuff like that.
I did. I loved it. I said it was one of my favorites.
Okay, flattery will get you everywhere. Anyway, right. So no, I did this thing on digital. I was batting it around to what could we do that would be interesting. And I said I've been on a lot of bad Zoom calls, and do you know that there are 300 million Zooms a day, and what I did, I thought, what's the worst scenario? I mean, this isn't good, right? So I'm presenting to, I don't know how many people are on the call, 30 people on the call or something. And it's a bit of pressure and it's not nice, but it's not as bad as this, which is, oh, hang on, let me play the video. So today I'm with Toby Dixon. Sorry, as a CEO, right? A CEO closing meeting through Zoom is probably the toughest gig, right? So you've got to close someone. Probably they're going to be short of time starved, time hungry. And I know a guy in my village, this chap on the right-hand side here, and Toby is he's Toby, right? He's about 5'1" on a good day. But he's very aggressive, very strong. He works in the city. Can someone mute? Sorry, I think someone's got can I mute them remotely?
Yeah, I think if someone's on their cell phone, it's a 607 number. I'm not sure who that would be.
Yeah, I can mute you. There we are.
Okay,
You can ask to be unmuted, but for now you're gone. Yeah, and Toby works in the city, and he's just really tough. So I said, "Can I interview you, Toby?" And he went, "Yeah, sure." And I just wanted to get some of his opinions on Zoom, and I tell you what, it's gold dust. It's on. I actually put it on Zoom on the web. So I don't know whether I can find it. I should post it in the chat, but I'll send Andy the link afterwards. But so I basically interviewed him and he came up with a few nice points here. I'm going to carry on from those. And some of the things were just really good. Obviously you got stuff about, dress codes, right? So he said they had a pajama policy. They had to stop people wearing pajamas during COVID. Okay, because we all know that this thing came along and completely changed our attitudes to how we present, and suddenly everyone could do a Zoom. But yeah, you know, think about your dress code. I am, by the way, for anyone who wants to know, I am dressed. Okay, I have a pair of jeans on. I am not sitting here in a pair of shorts having done a workout. And he was particularly strong about that. He said, if someone turns up on a Zoom to sell me something and they turn up in a tracksuit, they've just been to the gym, he went, they're not taking me seriously. I'm not buying from you. If you can't show me the courtesy, he said, imagine you were coming to my office, you wouldn't do it. So the stuff he came up with is very good. You need to master the technology. Let's have a bit of fun. Oh, what happened there? That should play. You know that.
We're trying to, can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
So, you know, I'm not a cat. I gather went viral in the US. I'm not sure it made it over the pond here quite the same, but it's really good. And this is my little setup. And I put the prices on here because, you know, well, maybe I should ask you the question I asked in the presentation. How many of you got 2 monitors? Okay, I see a good show of hands. Thank you. Because when I did it in Dallas, there was a lot of people said they just work with a laptop. I mean, you know, you're seeing me in high quality HD because I've got a webcam, and I've got a Jabra, so one of these things. I think if I can see it, one of those. Okay, so I don't have to tie up my hands. I haven't got a headset on. Apologize, people wearing a headset, not meant to be, but you know, I like to have my arms free to wave, and you know, it's something that you can use, and it will cost you all in, unless you go and buy a stupid price monitor, you know, $300 or $400. So if Andy's paying or not, right, do it. If you're in sales and you've got a laptop, but you're doing 10 Zooms a week, shame on you. You should be getting more in commission to be able to do this. Get a ring light. I've got a ring light here, so it makes me nice and illuminated, so you can see me. And I've turned on my backdrop because I'm trying to be really professional. I may turn it off later and be unprofessional, but you know, again, so these things don't cost much money, and they can give your audience a quality experience. And you probably realize I'm driving everything through my screen on the right over here. So what you see is over there, and all my other pyrotechnics for the Zoom and PowerPoint and everything else is on this screen in front. So I can concentrate on that, but then you see what's over here. So again, it gives you some nice capabilities. And I mentioned this already. Look at this. Look at the webcam. Andy did it beautifully, and I can see a lot of you doing it now because I'm talking about it. But if you next time you do a Zoom tomorrow, try and look at the webcam. Don't look at yourself. It's very tempting because we're all handsome and beautiful. But you know, try and look at whoever you're talking to. And I'll just summarize that. That was a very short teaser for it was an hour's presentation, but I would encourage you to watch it because it shook my world a bit. And he said that some of these things are kind of obvious. You know, I said in the presentation, it's 45 minutes of stating the obvious. But he said, you know, your setup is your brand. So if you have a really bad office, then, you know, that's going to be, you know, be evident. So use the corporate backdrops and blank it off. Okay. You can't fix everything. You can try, you know, so the dog, you could, if it's a really important call to close a CEO, have someone look after the dog, or put the dog in the garden, or get rid of the dog or the cat or whatever. And there's loads of videos that are funny, but and obviously get prepared. So, you know, learn how to not be a cat, learn how to not accidentally lose your, you know, lose your place or what you're doing with the technology. So you imagine you're doing that. And this was the one that I think was really important. Hosting. If you set up the call, it's your call. Be there on time. You own it. You have to look at the camera. If there's technical people coming on your call, you need to tell them what they're going to talk about or give them the brief. You need to own the customer. You need to get their pictures off LinkedIn and do an introduction slide. You own it. And I hadn't thought about that. Toby does this to a ruthless extent. I went to take some pictures of his dog. with my expensive camera. And I said, what pictures do you want? He went, I don't know. You're the photographer. You tell me. And he said, you own it. If you do it, you own it. And it's so true. We get diminished responsibility where we don't own things. And that includes, I keep losing my cursor on the white screen, includes the after, the follow-up. So his point was, he said, we've got sloppy during COVID that it's okay to wait 4 days to go back to somebody. It's not. Why can't you get it to me the next day? Why does it suddenly take 4 days? If you're going to send me something, send me the PDF of the slides or whatever it is that evening. Don't wait 4 days. And you know, invest in yourself. Buy a ring light, buy some extra monitors. You have an affordable way to give people a better experience and give yourself the best chance to communicate with a remote audience. So do it. Don't sit here in the dark with a window behind you, looking up your left nostril from your laptop and then say, oh, the CEO couldn't hear me. So when I said I'd give him a 10%, he thought I said 50% discount. You know, so I think, you know, look after yourself and do things that way. But yeah, so his final message was, you know, prepare, show you care, and host it, which was good. I will send you the PDF of these slides, so the link is in the slides, so you can get to that pretty well. Last topic, and I will ram that in. I'm just about on the cusp of blowing my time, but obviously, you know, the big thing is practice, practice, practice. Okay, so the more you can practice on presentations, the more you'll be able to execute well. I've got a bunch of different tools I use. I don't do the in the mirror. I do. There's a picture of my dog, and you may think, why is he showing a picture of his dog? I used to walk the dogs. Oh, hang on, it's the next slide. That's why. I used to walk the dogs with my iPhone, and you'd be amazed that if you take a Google Doc with earbuds and you just dictate a presentation into a Google Doc, when you get home, it's a great starting point for a presentation. And also, how many of you make a mess of a presentation to your mates in the bar? You don't. So when you just talk, things just come out right. So even if it's a complex topic like explain cloud services with 3D Experience Platform in 2025, go around and walk around the house a couple of times and dictate your answer into a phone. You'll be amazed. It makes good sense. And then you can start embellishing that as your basis for your presentation. You can do stuff with selfies and things like that as well. Obviously, that's another technique you can use. For the technical folks, someone told me once there's a great way, if you've got a power audience that you're scared of, practice. So you can, well, I chose him, right? He scares me a bit, or him, okay? You can present to scary people to try and scare yourself. Now, I don't know, it doesn't work. It doesn't really work, but they say that, you know, that's one of the things you can do to practice is put a picture of someone on the wall and do it. But I will give you, the next slide is really important, and I love it, and I use it all the time. It's a memory palace. Anyone heard of that? If you're doing a presentation, I see some nodding. Joe's nodding. If you're doing a presentation, what you do is you take something very familiar to you, like going in the front door of your house, and you put stupid things into a scenario in your head that map to what you want to talk about. So, for example, I'm introducing a video to my wildlife photography, and I wanted to do a really powerful sort of 45-second introduction to it. So I come in the front door and I walk in and I go into my lounge and I see the TV screen. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening, I'm going to be presenting a video. On underneath the video screen, there's a box of tissues and there is a gag. Ladies and gentlemen, I do sometimes get emotional when I'm watching this video, so I may go quiet for a couple of seconds. And I come out of my lounge, and in my hall, I've got a painting, a picture of a bird with lots and lots of animals. It's an illustration, animals in it. So that tells me the next bit is going to be, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you a video with 16 species in it out of the 573 species in the UK that you could see at any one time. Then I go through the kitchen doors into my kitchen. And I see my dog sat by the window, and I think, next part of the presentation. As you watch this video, look at the power, the agility, and the grace of how these animals move. Next bit, I go out onto the patio of my house, and there's a cage, a box of money, and there is a clock with 60 minutes on it. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what has encapsulated me, driven me, and rewarded me in ways I never have even thought of. In the next 60 minutes, I'm going to take you on a walk around my world, and it's a world that I call strictly nature. Right? So just by keeping all these images around my house, I never forget it. I've already memorized it. I can do this good, powerful 45-second introduction to a video that I hope will start getting people engaged before I've even started. Okay. So that's something called a memory palace. So you take something incredibly familiar and then you hang the stories with items around your kitchen or whatever it might be. Maybe it could be something really crazy. You might have something from Star Wars, standing in the kitchen. If it's going to remind you what the next thing is, so your agenda as you go around the room, and that's called a memory palace. Anyone understand what I was talking about? Did that make sense, Joe?
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you. So yeah, so that's a really good thing. And I still use that today, and I use it every time. If I need to memorize something, that's what I do. So let's summarize. Basically, the presentation on Zoom is in the partner platform. I'm going to do a quick advertorial for the partner platform, of course. That's here. And also the stuff that you're going to hear from Scott as well is in the partner platform in the sales area. The Trojan horse on DraftSight, because I know you're just gagging to find all about DraftSight and how you can use DraftSight to prize open big accounts and sell them more 3D. I know you want to do that. If you want to do that, it's in the DraftSight area on the partner platform. Go and have a listen to that. It's 45 minutes. And that's basically a really good way to catch up on some of the things I've said. I am going to skip another video because I think perhaps I've done enough for that now. Here's me in my alter ego. But I've used this quote a few times many years ago. Andy might even remember it. But I still like it now. This guy was a nuclear submarine commander. And obviously, as you can see there, it's about your desire to get better. And I'm going to finish with one little story. And it's this one. Okay, so this is a final bit of storytelling. It's got can't believe it's got an auto advance. So my final story is there's 3 frogs going through the jungle in the Amazon rainforest, and they all fall. Five frogs going through the jungle, and 3 of them fall into a hole. And it's quite a deep hole, and they're jumping and they can't get out. And after about 45 minutes, the other frogs look down and they say, "Guys, you're just not getting out of there." And one of the frogs just realizes he's totally fatigued, and he just laid down and dies. And the second frog, she's jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping. And the frog's at the top saying, "Higher, higher, you need to get." She can't do it, just can't reach. So eventually she too collapses and dies. And the third frog just keeps on going. The frogs at the top say, this frog is just crazy. And eventually something happened. It got some traction on the side of the hole, reached up with its claw and pulled itself out. And they said, "How on earth did you manage to just keep going when everything was against you?" And the frog said, "I'm deaf. I couldn't hear you telling me that I couldn't do it." And that's my message for you. You can all be rock star presenters. You can all do loads and loads of great business using all these tools. You just have to learn and get better at it, and go through and try to grow with your skill set about how to present. With that is me done. I probably left 1 minute for questions, which is not enough. If you want to stay, I'll stay, but it's up to you. Anyone got any questions from all that I've thrown at you?
Feel free, guys. Take advantage of this opportunity we have.
Now I'm looking at you. Did you agree with any of it?
Yes.
Good. And I think
Simon, I'll throw a question at you. I guess how many presentations or how many public speaking engagements did you do before you started feeling a little bit more confident, more comfortable?
Well, the other thing I was going to say to you is volunteer. Because I was running marketing in Europe. Was I running marketing in Europe? I was a TS. No, was I TSM? I think I was a TSM for UK at SolidWorks, and we did SolidWorks World, the first one. There was only 500 people there, but McElhaney, Vic Leventhal, all the founders were in the front row, and I did a presentation on. Funnily enough, I did a presentation on Autodesk, the 300-pound gorilla, and I remember smashing that presentation. I did lots of good graphics, and I spent way too long on my slides. But I know they were all sitting there going, wow, this guy's quite useful. And I got off then, and that's when I first thought, oh, I think I'm all right at this. But the only way I discovered and got the opportunity to get any better was by putting my hand up. And so now I'm a perpetual first person to put your hand up. And as I said, I was a shy kid. I would never have put my hand up first. So the more you put yourself out there, the more comfortable you get at being uncomfortable, and that's how you improve. So I'd say just volunteer, keep doing it. You know, it's not a number of presentations, I don't think, Andy. It's probably, you know, there's probably a lot of people on the call who haven't presented to, say, 100 people. When you presented to 100 people, you know, it's a milestone, it's a badge. You can stick it on your arm and say, yeah, I did that. I did a good presentation to 100 people. That's good validation. But it could also be 3 very powerful people. You know, that's to say it doesn't matter.
Any other questions from the group?
Simon, how do you come up with some of your, I guess, your storytelling topics? So like the Trojan horse or the 3,000-pound gorilla, I guess. How do you come up with that idea that's going to tie your slides or your presentation together?
Yeah, great question. I don't know. I mean, I read a lot of blogs, and I watch the world around me. I tell you what, I've got a really rich source of stories. It's called my family and my kids. I met a guy about 3 years ago, and he said, I remember you. You're the guy that did a presentation at the SolidWorks kickoff, and you talked about how your kid was playing golf and had gone round in 100 but didn't know why. And you told him to go away and find out. And I did this whole story about my son. I said, why did you shoot 90? I don't know. And I said, well, how can you get any better then? I said, how many putts did you have? How many wedges do you have? How many fairways did you hit? And he's now 25, and he's actually in inside sales now. So it's quite funny. But you know, someone remembered, but I talk about my kids a lot. I talk about my hobbies a lot. You know, so I didn't turn off my screen, did I? There we are. So
good.
There we are. So there's a few of my pictures. So I talk about my hobbies a lot. I talk about the things that interest me. You know, you don't have to go that far to find interesting topics. I think when you speak to Scott on the frames and those kind of things, you sometimes have to rack your brains a little bit. But again, just think out. It's in the shower in the morning would be the other answer. That's when you get the good stuff. Suddenly you go, yeah, that's a good way to do it. I'll do that, and that can help as well. But great question, yeah. You know, take the dog for a walk would be my answer. Just go and do the presentation. Take the dog for a walk. Something will come into your head. The human brain's an amazing thing. You'll get a bolt of lightning. You'll get the aha moment in the shower, walking the dog, driving the car. But you know, something will come to you. Often it comes to you the day before, unfortunately.
All the more reason to do PowerPoint the night before.
Yeah, I used to struggle. Sometimes I used to struggle to kind of get a good thing to do the emceeing for the 3D Experience World. And always something would happen when you got there. Something would happen the day before, or you'd speak to somebody and you'd always find a connection point. I tell you what, actually, I've got an answer to that question. There's a game you can play, and it's called Connections. So what you do is with the family, try it with the kids, is you have to relate something to something else. So you say, tell me about a table and a giraffe. And what you have to do is make a connection. You go, they both got 4 legs. One of them supports my cup of tea, which I enjoy. Another one supports getting tea leaves off the top of a tree. That's how I think giraffes and tables are alike. But what it's doing is it's making you practice the ability to make connections, and your brain will get better at it. And that's when you can connect. So when you're facing an ugly question that you don't want to answer in a Q&A after a presentation, you know the answer you're going to give, which is Cadimensions are wonderful, SolidWorks is wonderful, and we want to sell you some more. The question is, can you connect that to the question they asked? You see politicians do it all the time. You guys are about to go through this, right? Every single question they get, they will come back to Biden's great, Trump's great, here's what I'm going to do, this is our policy. Every single question they get will be twisted and mapped back to what they want to say. You have to do the same thing. And if you get good at it, you'll be better at Q&A.
We're on borrowed time here. Any other questions?
I need to let you guys do some work, probably.
Guys, Simon's over in the UK, so it's what, almost 8 o'clock at night for you? Almost 9?
Yes, it's actually, we're in that twilight zone where you're only 4 hours behind us or 5 hours behind us. So it's actually 7:30. So I thought I had an extra hour to get prepared for this tonight, and I didn't. I suddenly thought, oh no, it's 6.
Well,
Yeah.
even still, we're taking you away from family time and the family, the dogs and everybody else. So I can't believe it's been 96 minutes. That flew by, and it was I feel like we just scratched the surface. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this and sharing some of the insights with us. It was fantastic.
Well, thanks everyone for the opportunity and for your time and attention of filling in the surveys. I hope I didn't bore anyone. I hope I've given you a couple of things to think about. And yeah, good luck with your presenting. Good luck with your careers. And I really hope that, that a couple of things that I've mentioned stick, and you'll think, that's a good idea. That's going to help. So yeah, thank you very much for your time.
We're in a great spot because we've got our quarterly kickoff coming up in about 2 weeks. And probably half the people on here are doing presentations for that. So it's a great opportunity to try to put some of this to practice. So
yeah, but only spend an hour the night before.
Hey, Simon,
If you're doing a 10-minute presentation, you're going to prep for 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can over prepare, but I think there's a balance. If you're going to get on stage in front of everyone, then yeah, do a little bit. But if I've given you some good ideas, that's what it's all about.
You have, absolutely.
Simon, I just wanted to say hello and thank you. It's great to see you.
Hi, there he is. There he is. How are you?
Good. And you're doing well, I take it.
I am, yeah. I've had my little hiccups and bumps in the road, but I'm all right now. I did a quick surf around. Sounds like you're doing some great stuff, and enjoyed seeing you on stage at World.
Yeah, they're doing excellent, and thanks for encouraging them and giving them some new ideas.
No worries, Pete. And yeah, are you playing any golf these days then?
Trying to. The snow is just about gone, so I'm ready to get out there. A couple weeks away. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to play with my son in a few weeks, so I need to throw away the camera and pick up the golf clubs again and see if I can remember how to swing them.
Wonderful. Good luck. We'll see you later.
Okay, take care. Thanks for popping in.
Thanks again.
Okay, guys, take care. I'll
everybody.
stop recording and I'll send you the link, Andy. Okay.
That'd be wonderful. I appreciate
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Good night.
See ya.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Have a good day.
Simon, that was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Hold on 1 second. Sure, on top story in the cloud.